My mother slapped me across the face in a lawyer's office, 3 weeks after I buried my father. She was screaming. I'd stolen his marina from her son. I had no right to my father's legacy. David deserved it because he'd worked there his whole adult life. David is 41 years old. He's my stepbrother, Mom's son from her first marriage, not Dad's biological child at all. I looked at her, felt the sting on my cheek, and said what I'd been wanting to say for 25 years. David isn't Dad's son. He's your son from your first marriage. The same son you chose over me when you left Dad. When you abandoned your 10-year-old stepdaughter, you took your real child and walked away without looking back. Now you want to steal from Dad's actual daughter? To give everything to a man who shares zero blood with him? She raised her hand to hit me again. The lawyer stood up and threatened to call security. Mom grabbed her purse and walked out. David followed her without a word. I sat in that conference room touching my face and knew this wasn't over. Mom had that calculating look, the same one she'd worn before she destroyed Dad's first business partnership years ago. I was right to be afraid. This whole nightmare started 25 years ago when I was 10. Dad caught Mom having an affair with the harbor master from 2 towns over, a married man with 3 kids. Mom thought he could offer her a better life than Dad's small fishing business ever could. The divorce was brutal and fast. Mom got the house and the settlement. Dad got the marina and the commercial fishing license, a permit so rare and valuable that people waited decades on waiting lists to get one issued back in the 70s before environmental rules made new permits nearly impossible to obtain. But the worst part wasn't losing the house or watching the lawyers fight over assets. The worst part was when Mom got to choose which child she wanted. She packed her bags and took David with her, her biological son from her first marriage, the boy she'd always loved more than her stepdaughter anyway. I remember standing in the driveway watching her load David into the car. He was 16 years old enough to make his own choice. He chose her without even looking at me. Mom turned to me and said, "You'll be fine with your father," like she was leaving a dog at a kennel. Dad stood beside me with his hand on my shoulder, squeezed gently, said, "It's just us now, kiddo." I was 10 years old watching my mother pick her real son over me, watching her walk away from the daughter she'd never really wanted. Dad raised me after that, just the 2 of us. Dad had built that marina from nothing over 30 years, started with a single dock and 2 rental slips, expanded slowly into a full-service operation. Boat storage, tackle shop, fuel pumps, captain services for tourists who wanted guided fishing trips. The commercial license let him run charter boats legally. That brought in most of the real money during peak season. After the divorce, David still worked there sometimes when he needed money, when he wasn't disappearing for days on gambling binges. Dad pretended not to notice because he'd raised the boy from age 10. Couldn't turn his back completely even after Mom took him away. I grew up on those docks after Mom left. Spent every afternoon after school helping Dad with the boats, learning to splice rope and read tide charts, handling drunk customers who got aggressive after too many beers. Dad taught me everything: the business, the water, how to survive abandonment. When I left for college in Boston at 18, I came back every weekend I could, drove 4 hours each way just to help with the weekend charter rush. That marina was my home and Dad was my only family. Mom remarried the harbor master eventually after his wife finally divorced him. She spent the next 25 years telling anyone who'd listen that Dad had stolen the marina from her in the divorce settlement, that she'd helped build it and deserved half. Complete fiction, since she'd worked at a dental office the entire time they were married, never set foot on a dock, unless she needed to yell at Dad about something. Dad's heart started failing in his late 50s. High blood pressure, stress, too many years of physical labor without enough rest. He managed it for a while with medication and regular doctor visits, cut back on the heavy work. Let David handle more of the daily operations, even though I was the one who actually cared about the place. But one morning last spring, Dad collapsed on the dock while preparing a charter boat for a client massive heart attack. The paramedics got there within 10 minutes, but he was already gone. 65 years old. I was at my desk in Boston when David called, saying, "Dad's gone. You need to come home." I drove 4 hours crying so hard I could barely see the road. The funeral happened 5 days later. Small service, mostly other marina owners and fishing captains and regular customers who'd known Dad for decades. Mom showed up wearing a black dress that cost more than Dad made in a month. Expensive jewelry, designer sunglasses. David stood beside her, looking uncomfortable in a suit that didn't fit right. He gave a eulogy about how Dad had taught him everything he knew about boats and business, how he'd devoted his life to keeping Dad's dream alive. I sat in the front row, wanting to scream that Dad wasn't even his real father, but staying silent because it was a funeral and Dad would have wanted me to be respectful. 3 weeks later, the lawyer read Dad's will in that conference room downtown. I got the marina, the commercial fishing license, Dad's life insurance payout of $300,000, everything. David got Dad's truck, the charter boat Stella Marie that Dad had named after our grandmother, and $50,000 in cash. Generous, considering David wasn't Dad's biological son, had no legal claim to anything beyond what Dad chose to give him. Mom got nothing. She wasn't in the will at all. Hadn't been Dad's spouse for over 25 years. David's face went completely white when the lawyer finished reading. Mom started yelling immediately. How dare Dad do this to David? How dare he not recognize everything David had contributed over the years? How dare he leave the family business to someone who'd barely been around, instead of the son who'd actually worked there? I looked at her and said very clearly, David is your son, not Dad's son, not my brother. He's your child from your first marriage, and Dad gave him a job out of kindness. That's all he owed him. That's when she slapped me. Hard left side of my face. The lawyer jumped up. Mom grabbed her purse. David followed her out without saying anything to me. I sat there, touching my cheek, and knowing Mom wasn't done. She never gave up when she wanted something. I drove to the marina that afternoon with my boyfriend Marcus. He'd been with me for 2 years and worked as a civil engineer, practical, calm. Everything I needed after growing up with Mom's chaos. The property looked more weathered than I remembered. Doc's needed painting equipment looked old. The office was cluttered with paperwork stacked everywhere. I started going through Dad's files trying to understand the business finances. 20 minutes in, I found something that made my hands shake. A loan document, dated 18 months ago, $200,000 borrowed against the marina property, signed by David Sullivan, countersigned by Dad, except Dad's signature looked wrong, shaky, nothing like his usual bold handwriting. I called the bank immediately. The loan officer confirmed it existed, said the payments were current. David had been making them monthly, since Dad supposedly took out the money for expansion and equipment upgrades. The bank had known David for over 20 years, watched him manage the marina operations, probably assumed he and Dad were partners. Didn't look too closely at a signature from someone they thought had authority to act on behalf of the business. I looked around the marina. No new equipment anywhere, no expansion, nothing upgraded. I showed the signature to Marcus. He compared it to Dad's signature on my copy of the will using his phone, not even close. David had forged Dad's signature, taken out $200,000 using the marina as collateral, hidden it for over a year. Then I found bank statements in Dad's desk, monthly withdrawals, $5,000, $8,000, $12,000, all going to an offshore betting account. David had a serious gambling problem. He'd burned through the entire $200,000 in less than a year, betting on sports and poker and God knows what else Dad never knew, because David had forged the signature and hidden all the statements. I called David. He answered on the third ring. I asked about the loan long silence. Then he said Dad knew about it. They'd discussed it. The signature might look different because Dad's hands were shaking from medication. I told him I was filing a fraud report. He said I'd regret that I didn't understand the business, that I'd been playing executive in Boston while he actually ran operations, that Mom was right, and I'd destroy everything Dad built. I hung up and called a lawyer. Catherine Morris specialized in business fraud. She looked at everything I brought her, the forged signature, the bank statements, the gambling account records. She said we had a strong criminal case. Forging signatures on loan documents was serious fraud. We should report it immediately and get the loan invalidated. Then she looked at me seriously and asked if I was ready for what comes next. Filing charges would trigger David and Mom. People like them don't go quietly when money's involved. 3 weeks later, the harbor authority showed up at the marina. 2 inspectors with clipboards and cameras. Multiple complaints about code violations. They said safety hazards, environmental concerns, fuel storage problems needing immediate attention. I walked them through everything. They found minor issues, normal wear and tear. Nothing serious. But they tagged it all anyway. Said I had 30 days to fix everything and pass reinspection. Or they'd revoke my operating permits, handed me a citation list 3 pages long. Catherine said it was harassment. Someone filing false complaints to hurt me. I knew who. Mom's husband was the former harbor master. Still had friends in the department. I spent the next month scrambling. Spending money I didn't have, hiring contractors, replacing equipment that had been grandfathered in for decades, but suddenly didn't meet new codes. The reinspection came. They found new violations, things not on the original list. Technical specifications that had never mattered before. They shut down my fuel pumps and commercial slip rentals, cut my income 60% overnight. David started spreading rumors to customers, told them I didn't know what I was doing, that the marina was failing under my management, that they should move their boats before I destroyed everything. Business drained away week by week. Mom posted on Facebook saying I'd stolen the family business from David, that I was ruining the legacy David helped build, that I should do the right thing and give it back to him. People who'd known Dad for years started believing her, taking David's side, saying family should support family. Within 2 weeks, I'd lost half my customers. The ones who stayed wouldn't look at me. One of Dad's oldest friends told me I was destroying Dad's legacy and should be ashamed, a captain who'd fished these waters for 40 years. I wanted to scream that David wasn't even Dad's real son, that he was Mom's kid from her first marriage with zero blood claim. But what was the point? Nobody cared about truth. They wanted drama. County code enforcement showed up next. More complaints. Tackle shop not up to commercial codes. Parking drainage problems. Signage violations. They fined me. 200 here. 500 there. Piled up faster than I could pay. 5,000 one month. 8,000 the next. Catherine filed appeals. County denied them all. Found new violations. Kept pushing me toward bankruptcy. By month 6, I was 3 weeks from losing everything. Marcus helped with finances. Sat with me at 3 a.m. while I cried over spreadsheets. He offered to loan me money. I refused. This was my fight. Dad left me this marina because he trusted me. I wouldn't fail him. Then Richard Chen showed up. Said he was an investor, buying distressed properties. Heard I was having trouble from county tax records showing late payments. Could offer a fair price. Take over the loan obligations. I told him no. He said I should reconsider. Offer wouldn't stay open forever. Shame if the marina got foreclosed and sold at auction for nothing. Catherine ran his background shell company, 3 months old, no real history. She pulled corporate records. The registered agent was a lawyer who'd represented David 2 years ago in a traffic case. David and Mom were behind it. Fake investor trying to force me to sell cheap. They'd buy it through the shell company, transfer it to David. Catherine said we didn't have enough proof yet, but she had a risky idea that might work if I was willing to gamble everything. Harbor Authority hit me again. Noticed that my commercial fishing license was under review. Ongoing code violations meant possible suspension or revocation, pending formal hearing. That license was worth more than the marina itself, completely irreplaceable. I panicked. Catherine filed emergency motions, demanded expedited hearings, fought every delay. The hearing took 4 months to schedule. 4 months of limbo, savings draining. Unable to run charter business without the license, David showed up one afternoon, walked around like he owned the place. I asked what he was doing. He said, checking on his investment, making those loan payments gave him rights. I told him to leave. He said I should take Chen's offer. Best option I'd get. Stubbornness wouldn't save me. I called police. They made him leave but said it was a civil family matter. After they drove away, I found a note on my office door. Last chance. Sell now or lose it all. Signed RC. The license hearing finally happened. Catherine presented everything. Forged loan. Harbor Authority violations appearing only after I inherited. Clear harassment pattern. The officer listened, took notes, said he needed time to review. Another 3 months waiting. Chen showed up again meanwhile. Raised his offer slightly. Said, final offer. I told him to get off my property. He smiled. Said I'd regret refusing. Then Marcus found insurance policies in Dad's old files. Comprehensive coverage Dad had maintained for decades. The policies had fraud investigation clauses, required the company to investigate suspected criminal activity affecting the property. Marcus called them that night, explained everything. They said they'd send an investigator. I didn't hope. Been disappointed too many times. But 3 days later, a woman with a briefcase showed up asking all the right questions. She was thorough. 3 days going through every document. Interviewed David. Interviewed bank employees. Interviewed Harbor Authority inspectors. Pulled phone records and emails. Then she disappeared. 2 weeks of silence. Nothing. Catherine said that was either very good or very bad. Then one morning, the DA's office called. I almost didn't answer. They were opening criminal investigation. Loan fraud, conspiracy, misuse of official position by Harbor Authority inspectors, filing false reports at Mom's husband's request. David's fake investor company collapsed under real scrutiny. Corporate records traced money back to accounts connected to Mom and David. The whole scheme fell apart in days. The license hearing officer called Catherine, dismissing all charges, reinstating full commercial privileges immediately. Apologizing for delays, Harbor Authority launched internal investigation. Suspended 2 inspectors. David's loan declared fraudulent. Bank removed it from marina title. But I'd already spent $60,000 fighting violations and legal fees. Marcus had loaned me $40,000 when my savings ran out. I was buried in debt even winning license cleared. Loan erased. Harbor Authority apologized. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I stood on the dock where Dad taught me to gut fish at age 7, where he told me Mom wasn't coming back, where he said he was proud when I got into college, where he collapsed and died while I was in Boston. Every memory tied to this place. They'd poisoned it all. Customers who watched me grow up thought I was destroying his legacy. The docks where I learned strength were covered in violation notices. Mom abandoned me twice. Once at 10 years old. Again now destroying my only home so she could give it to her real son. The marina was dead, reputation destroyed. Customers gone. Property needing repairs I couldn't afford. I made a decision that would break Dad's heart but save what he actually cared about. Sold the physical property to a developer wanting to build condos. Used money to pay Marcus back. Paid contractors and lawyers. Kept the commercial fishing license transferable anywhere in the state. Found smaller dock space 30 miles up the coast. Family operation renting me 2 slips for the charter boat. Marcus thought I was crazy starting over. Maybe I was. But I had one advantage David never had. I knew how to lose everything and keep going. Did it at 10 when mom left, doing it again at 35. David got charged with fraud and conspiracy. Prosecutor offered a deal. 2 years probation, full restitution of my legal fees, pleading guilty to reduced charges. He took it. Mom wasn't charged. Her involvement was indirect. Pressure through her husband, who retired immediately. After the scandal, David sent an email 6 months later. Said he was sorry. Mom convinced him I didn't deserve it. Never worked there like he had. Believed her when she said I'd just sell it anyway, might as well get what he earned. I didn't respond. Nothing to say to someone who thought working somewhere gave more rights than being the owner's actual daughter. I still run charter trips 3 days a week. Smaller dock. Office doesn't smell like Dad's coffee anymore. But every time I take customers out, every time I teach someone to read currents the way Dad taught me, I'm protecting his legacy. They took the physical place. Can't take the skills he gave me. The license he trusted me with. The memories of growing up on those docks while Mom's real son gambled away money he didn't earn, Marcus. And I got engaged last summer on the boat during sunset. I think about Dad sometimes. Wonder if he knew David forged his signature, if he suspected but didn't have proof. If he knew leaving everything to me would cause this much trouble. He'd probably say I did right, keeping the license and starting over. That physical location didn't matter. The work mattered. The water's the same everywhere. I'm still his daughter, running his boats the way he taught me. Mom's marriage fell apart after her husband lost his job. Heard she moved to Florida with her sister. David works at a car dealership now, paying restitution slowly. $200 monthly. I don't forgive them. Don't think about them much anymore. The license is mine. The boat is mine. Dad's legacy is mine. I built something he'd be proud of, even if it looks different. Even if his stepson and ex-wife tried stealing it to give to someone with no right to any of it.